call this a citizen's collection. A collection does not begin when a librarian chooses a topic. It begins when someone says, I don't know what to do with my grief. I'm caring for a parent with dementia. I want to understand climate change, but I don't know where to start. So we read books, films, articles, blogs, research reports, local records, and people's lived knowledge into a living collection. And the collection does not stay on the shelves in the middle of the library. We open what I call a village forum. Neighbors sing a song and lay their different experiences side by side. The expert panelists do something unusual. They speak last, they listen first to everyone. Only then offer references that might help. Those two become part of the collection. And sometimes, before the chairs are even put back, a small, friendly conspiracy is underway. A new project no one had planned that morning. This is why we say a collection evolves like a small ecosystem, changing with every person who enters it. This passion has become sharper in the age of AI. A language model can summarize 100 books before I finish my coffee. It can search, translate, classify, and generate paragraphs with astonishing speed. So what is a library for now? What is a librarian for? My answer begins here. A library is not only an answer machine. It's a place where meaningful questions are discovered, held, complicated, shared, and sometimes transformed into public action.
If a library is truly community-centered oriented, that means there is responsibility for the librarian and for the community. If you're at a community and you do not feel that library represents it, is not something that is useful to it, is a quiet space, is constrained, is too restrictive, then as a community, I'm going to get thrown out of the country for radicalizing the community. Change it. They're public libraries. Public means something. And
an American scholar speaking thousands of miles from home invented the exact word we have been struggling with for years. Public means something. Nytinamu is privately funded. No government agency built it. No city budget created it. When people learn that, they sometimes say, that must be why you can do things differently, because you are private. But I have come to think the more important and interesting question is not what a private we can do. It's what any library can open up when we understand publicness differently. Public means something. Not a funding source, not a legal category. It's a verb, like knowledge, something people do together. Publicness happens with no questions, too small. And it happens when the people who walk through the door are not only users, services, but makers of the public world. Over the year, we came to see a pattern. First, discovery. We go out not to deliver something, but to notice what people already need and what they already have to offer. Then, a living collection. We connect books with lived experiences. One person's question with another person's memory or skill. That invitation. Not management, not assignment, just an invitation. Shall we try this together? If the invitation is accepted, a base camp forms, a place with no admission requirements, no fee, and no need to explain yourself before you can stay. And from that base camp, agency becomes to grow. People act together on their own initiative because by then it's their project, not ours. Outreach is not delivery. This is why collection busking matters so much to us. We chose the word busking on purpose. An exhibition is planned in advance and stays the same. But a street musician reads the weather, the mood, the crowd, and changes course in the moment. That is exactly when passers-by stop, join in, and something unplanned begins. An 88-year-old barber told us that for 70 years, he has been cutting not only hair, but worries. A flower shop owner told us that flowers are there for every moment of life. A confession of love, celebration, apology, farewell, mourning. When a library needs people there, the life is actually lived. The collection begins to breathe. Even what I am wearing today is part of this story. A neighbor of 25 years grows indigo. We call it 쪽 in Korean. She harvests it by hand and dyes clothes with it. Her dye is nothing but naturally fermented indigo, no chemicals. So she works with her bare hand. That's why her fingernails are always stained deep blue. I love those hands. We brought collection busking to her workshop by the lake year after year. Sparks met kindling. A few years ago, the whole lakeside hung so blue with the Indigo Festival. This is what a civic experiment looks like. Sometimes you can even wear it.
We talk about users and calling people users. I don't like being used. I don't know if that translates that to Korean, but there is one context that I've seen the word user make sense with libraries, and it was a group in Denmark. And they said the library, the building, collections, data, was a facility that librarians used with their communities to achieve something. So, yes, people are users of the library, including the librarians were users of the library, because what they were doing is they weren't building a library, they were building a movement.
People may even have the worst grade. If I could leave you with one image of a librarian's role, it would be this. Not the fire, the flint. A flint does not become the fire. It does not replace the wood, the oxygen, or the people who gather around its walls. It strikes against something and throws a spark towards what was already waiting. The kindling was already there in the neighborhood. Skills, grief, anger, care, curiosity, nation. The library's work is to notice it, strike at the right angle, and then step back for others to tap the flame. Last year, our neighbors made a short video to introduce themselves at the National Library Conference in Korea. I could tell you about them, but I would rather you meet them the way I meet them, in their own words, in their own place. Transformation and connection, and drawing that cross the sea between Korea and Uganda. Let me slow down a few moments the camera could not hold. We sometimes call it end-based camps, not one official product, but many footholds. They began at different points. A parent looking for a place where her child is not treated as a problem. A young adult too isolated to come to the library. Retirees with skills no one had asked for anymore. The library did not invent their lives. We simply tried to keep the space open long enough for people, questions, and resources to find one another. Time they had quietly written off as idle, became community wealth. What had been called weakness became the strength to care for one another. The hospitable table began because two mothers could not find a place where their children could be allowed, could run, or could simply exist without apology. One mother told us it was the first time she had eaten in a public place with an autistic child without feeling guilty, without feeling she had to apologize for being there. The library offered a space that did not flinch, and the families did not remain recipients of care. 13 families became 40, and new, smaller circles kept branching off. These drawings, letters without words, traveling between Korea and a refugee settlement in Uganda, later found their way to the walls Namjoon Art Center. Hospitality became agency. And so the canvas bags in the video, sewn by a neighborhood craftsperson, from fabric given by an elder who used to run a hanbok shop. They traveled through a neighborhood where many people living alone, young and old. Once a week, one book, one handwritten letter, carrying a deadliest local news. A player radio asking, "How are you?" So that's why we named it "How Are You Book Bags." Sometimes the bag comes back within a week, sometimes it doesn't. Whoever carries the bag keeps leaving another note, not expecting a reply, simply making one possible. A service can solve an immediate problem, an invitation, awaken a relationship a person may not yet know they are allowed to meet. Among the people who delivers those bags today is someone who once lived in deep isolation. The bag that might have once have been left at their own door, they now carry to other doors. The resource circulation network began with older neighbors whose skills had become invisible. Sewing, repairing, cooking, noticing who was missing from the street. Today, they have a very visible name, the alley heroes. The repair table became a weekly habit became a neighborhood practice, and the story didn't stop at the neighborhood. Their work now lives in our city's resource circulation ordinance. A repair table reached public policy. This work also connected us to a global network of communities exploring donut economics, a vision of a safe and just space where we can all thrive within planetary boundaries and leave no one behind. This is commoning, more than sharing a resource, learning to govern care, risk, and possibility together. There's more of this story at this Congress. Dr. Kyungmin Lee, who has led this work, will present our resource circulation case. This afternoon, 2:30, in session room 4, very close here. It'll take less than 10 seconds. You can also find us at the poster session and the collection basket booth in the K-Culture Zone. You are warmly invited to both. This is the shift I want to name. Publicness is often imagined as something provided. Public facilities, public services, public access. But if publicness is only something provided, people remain passive recipients of something prepared elsewhere. And Nytinamu, we have slowly come to dream of different publicness, not only provided, but evoked. Publicness that brings something out of people. Publicness that makes it possible for questions, skills, pain, humor, memory, and responsibility to appear. People should be free to remain readers, visitors, or quiet users. But when they want to act, the library shouldn't reduce them to mere consumers of service. This is what I mean by a civic laboratory. David Lentz has a phrase I have always loved. A library is a safe place to explore dangerous ideas. A place safe enough that people dare to question, to disagree, and try something new. People have started calling this a democracy platform. A library that keeps making room for citizens' own questions and practices to encounter one another, so that empathy, solidarity, and the next experiment no one planned can happen a little more often. And that, repeated over the year, is how a neighborhood grows resilience. When I say platform, I don't mean a building or a space or an app. I mean a web of relationship, capacities, trust, and total collaborating and harmony through which citizens and communities become the author of their own better lives. A space is where it happens. The platform is what makes it happen. Democracy, before it is a grand institution, is the practice of making room beside you without asking for qualifications. So let me return the question I began with. What happens to libraries and librarians in an age of AI? A model can generate an answer in half a second, but it cannot by itself create a room where people know each other's name. It cannot leave a book at a door and wait patiently for a reply. And it cannot notice that an 88-year-old barber has been cutting wood for 70 years. An algorithm is updated from above. A living collection evolves from below with the neighborhood. Technology is not the rival of this work. Until about 10 years ago, we pushed the wooden book cart through the neighborhood every week. Today, anyone can reserve a book with their phone or propose moving a whole collection from a flower shop to a car repair shop. The machines took over what can be repeated so that we could go out and meet what can never be repeated, a person. And the knowledge being lived in the neighborhood no longer disappear. It's archived in real time, searched, shared, and woven into our living collection. Here's one more scene. One day, our makers proposed an experiment. Please spend 1 hour without electricity, even just once a month. That's how our no electricity day was born. Someone wired a bicycle to a generator and an amplifier. Children paddled, and music filled the room. Someone made the candles from beeswax, and under that light, people sewed, knitted, and held a reading circle. For 1 hour, the most advanced technology in the library was a bicycle. And nobody missed a thing. The answer to the digital age is the local. Not instead of digital, not merely alongside it, through it. Relationships start enough to make technology serve life rather than hollow it out. And when I say the local, I don't just mean a slogan man. The power of the local comes from aspiration. People's longing for a better life for themselves and for the people beside them. That longing is a drying kindling, and it gains power when it settles into a community, into the routines of daily life, the way indigo settles into clothes. Not painted on the surface, but soaked in the fiber. That winter evening, a woman looked at the lights, the food, the people standing between the shelves, and asked, "Is this really a library?" Now, I know how I would answer her. Yes. Not despite all of that. Because of it. Because a library is not only a warehouse of finished acts, it is a place where passions find language, strangers become neighbors, knowledge begins to move, and public life can be rehearsed in small, ordinary, miraculous ways. The library is not a fire, it never was. It is the Flint. Or, if you prefer the kitchen, soy sauce. Somewhere in your own neighborhood, dry kindling is already waiting. What is it? What does it take for your library to strike a spark?